Hi everyone, and welcome to this video where we're going to look at the input routing, and in particular we're going to be looking at the audio input routing. So the input routing is this section here above the monitor or the monitoring, and you can see we've got different options for audio and for MIDI. So here's our MIDI from or MIDI input, and then we get a drop down underneath that as well, which depends on what we've selected in the top drop down. Likewise for the audio input, what we can do is we can select something from here, and this will populate the one underneath. So what we're doing now is we're listening to my voice through the microphone. We're monitoring that as an input, which means that it's constantly going to monitor all the way through, and it basically acts like a auxiliary. So we can set this to auto, and it means we're only going to hear the voice or the monitoring if we set this to record. So now we can hear my voice back. And then we have off, which turns off monitoring completely. So we can see here we've got the left and right input. So we've got channels 1 and 2. So we've got channel 1 and channel 2, the two monos that make up the stereo. So this is because I'm using a built-in microphone, which we can see here, 2 in, 0 out. And we can see these here. So 1 and 2 is getting summed together to make the stereo inputs, but we could use these two separately as well. So this could be the mic and this could be something else. And in most cases with mono mics, that's going to be how it works. You're going to have a microphone going into one channel on your sound card, and then you're just going to be able to choose 1 or 2 depending on which channel you've plugged it into. So that's the external in, and don't forget that can be anything you want. It could be a vinyl turntable, it could be a synth, could be absolutely anything that you decide to configure and plug in to Ableton Live via your audio interface. Next we've got Waves, Rewire. Rewire is made by Reason, and basically allows us to plug in different audio from other programs or software that we've got running at the same time. So here you can see Waves and Isotope. We've then got Resampling. This allows us to record or resample multiple or single tracks onto our track here. So we could do some sound design with this, and we like the sound of it, or we like the alternate version we've made. What we could do is we could then resample that just by hitting record, and then we'll have this version here, which will be the new version. So that's a good way of merging different tracks together, different layers. You might have a vocalist with different harmonies, then you could resample all of that together. So it's a great tool, especially for things like sound design. We can then also select no input, which just means we're not going to send any audio into this track. It will still be able to play audio if we place audio in these clips, but it's not going to have an actual audio input. And then we can listen to the master. So that's sort of another way of resampling, is we could feed what's coming out of the master into this audio track. We've got to be very careful here that we don't create feedback loops, which is when we've got the input feeding the output and then going back into the input again, and it's going to slowly get louder and louder, which is something we've also got to be aware of with send and returns as well. So after the master, we've got our send and returns, and then we've got our actual tracks. And you can see here we can also select groups as well. So this is a drum rack, and we can expand this drum rack out. We can see we get all the controls along here for our drum rack, and that's for each pad. So with this group or this drum rack, we've got the option to be able to pull in all of these drum sounds as individual input sources. And we can either do that pre or post effects or post mixer. And then you can see underneath, not only can we do it for the entire group, but we can also do it for each individual sound within this group as well. And we also get the pre and post effects and post mixer options for all the different sounds as well. So just to give you a quick demonstration of at least this first bit, these pre and post effects, we'll set this to our lead one, which is this sound here. And I'll just play this for you so you can hear it. So it's just a simple 2-note pattern. The legato notes, which means they've been extended to the next note. And if we look at our lead track, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the device activator off now so we can't hear the track, but it's still playing. So we've just muted it on the mixer. So it's still playing, but I've just muted it here, because what we're going to do is we're going to pull it in on this audio track here by clicking lead 1, monitor in, And now all we have to do is unmute the lead 1 track. And you can see it's now responding to the mixer. And the reason it's responding to the mixer like that is because we've got it set to post mixer. If we set this to pre mixer, which would be post effects, you can see that it's now ignoring the mixer and we're still getting the signal coming through. I'm just going to turn this down slightly. And then the other thing we can do is go pre effects. And if you listen to this, it's going to sound quite different because we've got a chorus, a reverb, and a compressor on there, and it's giving it that chorused effect. To make it more obvious, we've got a arpeggiator and a set of chords here. So this is post effects. And then we've also got pre-effects. Now pre-effects is still post instrument, because if it came after this instrument, let me just stop that. If it came after this instrument, we're going to hear a signal, an audio signal. If it comes before this instrument, there's not actually going to be a signal to listen to. We can't listen to MIDI on its own. So just to demonstrate this, if we go pre-effects, this is tapping the signal off here. So it's after the instrument, but before the effects. We can then tap it off after the effects. And just to demonstrate that that's now doing it after the effects, we can hear that these effects are now working. And then post mixer, which I've just explained, means that it's now going to take it's going to take this as a source as well. So now the mixer is controlling the volume of this. And this is really important because this is how send and returns also work with pre and post sends, which we'll come on to a little bit later on. So that's post mixer, and then we'll go on to a more complicated version. So we're going to go on to the Yakiman kit, and what I'm going to do is just set this back to how it was. So turn that off. So with the Yakiman kit, let's just press play first so you can hear it. So it's just a basic beat that I've created. Let's just pull this down. And we can see all of these tracks here firing away. We can control them from here as well. You might decide you want to do some extra processing, so you might want to either pull in the whole kit, or you might want to pull in an individual pad. So you can do that using this. So I'll just unmute. And you notice that when I try and select this or solo this, it's going to cut out. However, if we do this post effect, so it's disregarding the mixer, it's going to work again. So that's another thing to bear in mind, is that the solos are going to take into account whether this is pre or post, because it's either going to bypass the mixer or it's not, which is exactly what this says here. So what we can do from here is we can select a sound, and once again we can select pre or post mixer. So let's go for the kick, and I'm going to do this post effects. And you can see now, because we've got this soloed, we've managed to pull this sound from the Yakiman kit. And let's unsolo that. And this allows us to mix this in, and notice how we're getting spikes now because we're blending two signals that are exactly the same together, which is going to give us a louder signal, which is going to sum like it is here. Okay guys, so I know this topic is quite difficult to understand if you've just started using Live, but I promise you, if you keep practicing, do some recordings, route some MIDI and some audio in and out of Live, then this is going to make a lot more sense to you. And if you're still struggling, then you can always come back and watch this video again to refresh yourself. So that's the end of this video on audio input routing, and in the next one we'll look at MIDI input routing.